In the previous lessons, we have developed 3 different Slide Master templates. One for presenting an example, one for presenting matched examples, and one for allowing the student to classify instances. What we want to do now is combine all 3 of these templates into a master template for teaching the kind of strategy, and we want to do that by creating a PowerPoint template. I have opened here a editing screen for PowerPoint. I have also already adjusted the master slide, and I have added the templates which we previously created to the master slide. So let's go view that. If we go look at the master slide, we'll see here that the master slide itself is a blank screen with a nice gray background, already sized to a standard size rather than the long size. Since we are now creating a strategy which will involve several slides, we need to do one more thing to our master slide. We need to add some buttons that will allow the students to navigate from one slide to the other. There are many ways to do this, but for now we'll use a very simple technique. We'll go to the Insert menu, we will go to Illustrations, we will go to Shapes, and this causes this menu of all kinds of shapes. At the very bottom, when we scroll down, there are some action buttons. We're going to include this one, which is automatically linked to go to the previous slide, and as you can see here, it's hyperlinks to the previous slide. Then we're going to include this one, which automatically links to the next slide. As you can see here, we'll just adjust these a little bit. I adjusted the color and shape of these buttons, so we now have buttons that will allow us to navigate to the next slide or return to the previous slide. I have also added here layouts for a title. I've added a layout for a blank screen in case we needed that. I had a layout for the Show Example template. I added a layout for our Show Matched Example template, and I added a layout for our Kind Application template, and then I added one more layout at the end just as a wrap-up screen, a thank you screen. Alright, so having shown you the master slides, let's go back here. Let's close the master view, and now let's add these slides to our PowerPoint presentation. So instead of creating slides in this presentation, we're just creating templates. And so each of our slides in the presentation will be represented by a template. Now we could do this in the slide master or in the slide sorter view, but I think it's easier for you to see what's going on if we do it here in the regular slide view. Alright, so it says click to add our first slide. We can actually do that, and it actually grabbed the title slide, which was good. We now want to add a second slide, so we can go here and say let's add a new slide, but we need to go to the layout here, and for that slide we want to add the Show Me the Example layout. So there it is. And now we want to add a third slide, so let's go down here to a new slide, and in this case we want to show matched examples, which was slightly off the screen for you, but you can see it here. I'm going to add 2 of those because I think it would be nice for the student to have 2 sets of matched examples. Then we want to add a slide here, a new slide for a application. Now, and this is off your screen, you won't see it, but the layout shows there, so I click that. I'm going to add actually 2 more of those because I want that student to have lots of practice. So we're going down here and add another application, and then we go down here and add another. I forgot to click off of that one, didn't I? So let's add another application here, and then let's add one more here. And then finally, let's add our little end slide that we created at the end. Alright, so now we have created really fast our PowerPoint presentation for our template. Here's our title slide where they can put the title and their authors. Here's the first slide, which presents the definition and an example, kind of lays the foundation for what we're doing. Here's the next slide, which compares an example and a non-example, and a second version of that to compare it example and non-example, which seems to have been missed. And here's a application slide where the student can actually try to classify some instances. Here's a second application slide and a third application slide, and finally here's our end slide. Now, having created our PowerPoint presentation as a set of templates, we want to save this as a big template, template for PowerPoint itself. In order to do that, we go up here to the File menu and we say Save As, and we have to find a place where we're going to save it here, and then we can, here comes it where we're saving it, and now we come down here to the Save As Type. You can't see the arrow, but I'm going to click the down arrow, and I want to save it as a PowerPoint template. You can see there's a lot of ways to save these things, but we want to save it as a PowerPoint template. It will save it wherever we told it to save it, but it will also save it to custom templates, which I'll show you the advantage of that. Alright, having done that, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to close down this presentation, and I'm not going to save it because I know what I have, and I'm going to open a brand new PowerPoint. So there comes it. There it comes. You can't see all of this, but you can see enough to see that in PowerPoint 2.13 I have created a personal layout. It shows all the ones that we used before here, but I'm going to click on this, and this is the template. It says here that it's the kind strategy template we created. So we click on that and we create it. It now creates a presentation based on our template. This is not the template itself. This is a presentation based on the template. And now we see that we have all of the pieces we had before. There's our title, there's our present example, there's our present matched example and a second version, and there's our application classifying. Here's a second one and a third one and our end slide. So now all the user of this template has to do is to add the content to this slide and save it. We'll show how to do that in the next presentation. Now that we have created our template, let's add content to this template to create our lesson on a Terry stop. I have opened our template here, and you can see that it has created a presentation and it opened to the title page. So the first thing I want to do is to insert the title. So we're going to insert the title here, Terry Stop, and we're going to insert the authors. And we could, of course, insert more information if we wanted to. Then we'll go to the next screen, which is our Insert an Example, and we will insert the information here. Since we have already demonstrated how to insert text and pictures into PowerPoint, I won't take time to actually make these insertions in this lesson, but will merely show you each of the templates with the appropriate content added in. I'll now go to the next slide. Now we've completed our example, non-example demonstration for the student of a Terry stop. Now we want to go and create a second example, non-example. And now we've created a second example, non-example presentation for our students. Now we'll go to the next template, and here we're going to create some practice exercises. So we will insert instances here, either examples or non-examples, and then we will add the feedback for these instances below. And now we have a practice item where the student must decide if each of these pictures represents a Terry stop or not, with appropriate feedback given below the picture. And now we want to create one more. Let's create another application example. So we go to our template again. I have already typed in the title Terry stop, and I've put a different instruction here. I say consider each of the following paragraphs and determine if a Terry stop is justified or not. And now we can see that in one case a Terry stop is probably not justified, and in the other case there might be some reason to search these girls. And finally, we will create one additional practice item. So let's create that here. And so now we have created yet a third practice opportunity for the students. And finally, we're to the end. We can insert more information. So we can insert our web link here. Now that we have completed our presentation on a Terry stop using PowerPoint templates, let's check to make sure it works. So let's go into presentation mode. Here is our Terry stop title page. We click to go to the next page. This is our example page. Click on Tell Me, and it explains what a Terry stop is. Click on Show Me, and it shows the picture of a Terry stop as we input it in there. Go to the next one, and it says this is an example, non-example. We click on this one. It explains that this is not an example. This is an arrest. We click here, and it explains that this one is an example and a little bit about the Terry stop. We go, here's another example, non-example. It said this is not an example. This is a man suspected of driving under the influence. And here is an example of a border patrol doing a search. The next one is an application where we ask the student to make a decision. We click here. They say, is this an example? And they click here and it says, no, this is just a traffic stop. And here again, a different border patrol making a Terry stop. Another application, in this case we ask a little different question. We said, is a Terry stop justified by these situations? We click here and it indicates this young man is just walking down the street, probably not justifying a Terry stop. And here we see two girls that might be doing drugs, so maybe a Terry stop would be warranted. And here's one more situation. This is clearly a Terry stop where they're searching people, probably for the suspicion of drugs. And here is just a traffic stop, probably not a Terry stop. And then we have completed our presentation, and it all seems to work fine. Now that we have completed our presentation on the Terry stop, have tested all of our templates to be sure that they work and that the content is correct, we now want to save our presentation as a PowerPoint show. This enables the learner to open it in presentation mode and turns off all the editing. So we don't want the student to have that editing capability. We just want them to see the show. In order to save it in the PowerPoint show mode, we go to the File menu and we say Save As, and we find a place to save it. And then we come down here where it says Save as Type, and we come down here and look for PowerPoint show right there, and then we save it as a PowerPoint show, and now it's saved as a PowerPoint show. Okay, now that we have saved it as a slideshow, we can close this presentation and we can save it, and then we can open up the slideshow by going to our computer. And here you will see that I've opened the documents, and here it is, the Terry stop presentation as a PowerPoint show. I will open that, and you can see that it opened in show mode rather than editing mode. So now the student sees the title page and they can go through the presentation. If they click here, they will go to the next presentation. Here they can see the parts that they have. Here they can go through the presentation as we did before. And so saving it as a show enables us to open up for the student in the way that they would like to see it. And of course we can go to the end of the presentation here as we had before, and we see that everything works in show mode here, and we finally get to the end and we have completed our presentation. If we have completed this presentation, we've saved it as a PowerPoint show so that now the students can get the show, they can see it, but they can't edit it, and it is exactly what we want it to do. Now that we have created our template, we can use it for other content as well. I've gone to my Finder on my computer. I have saved an example that I created in photography for the rule of thirds. If I click on the icon here in my Finder, it will open this to the presentation for the student. So here's the title page as we had before. It works just like the template did for our previous demonstration. I can go here and move to the next slide. Here it tells me that a rule of thirds is a good way to place your objects in your photograph to create good composition. Here's an example of a good composition. The rule of thirds are shown by the lines drawn on the picture. Here is an example, non-example. It says this is not an example and explains why. The girls are in the center. This is an example. We've repositioned the girls by cropping the photograph to create a better composition. Here is a second example, non-example. This is not an example, but we can improve it by cropping, and this shows how we've cropped the picture to improve it and make it a better composition. And now we are in the application mode, and here we have a couple of examples to ask the students to identify which one's a good example and which one's not. If they click here, it points out, yes, this is a good example, points out the girl is on the intersection of the lines. Here we even actually show the lines, and we say, no, this is not a good example, because you can see the face of the child is not on one of the intersections. Here's a second application, a little different kind of content. This is a scenery. It said, click here if this is an example. This says, yes, it is. And it shows that the rocks and the tree are on the intersection of the lines. This is not an example because it's just an open field. There's no point of interest. Here's a second application. These are a group of family pictures. This one says, no, this is not an example. It's a nice family picture, but not an example. And this one is an example because the folks are arranged to be on the intersection of those lines. And we have completed our little course in photography. This course was created in about 10 minutes. I obviously had already taken the photographs, arranged them in a folder. I knew which photographs I was going to use, but dropping them into the template just took a few minutes. And then I have a nice presentation that implements a kind of instructional strategy.